sky's not blue.
You need to understand that when the time comes, I'm going to be taking over.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I'm your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he's from Winnipeg, you idiots, Jesse Mathewson, the vocalist and guitarist of KENmode. How you doing today, Jesse?
Oh, doing okay. Better than I have been. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I was hoping I'd get a little bit of a pop out of you with that Jericho reference.
Oh, I enjoyed it. That was a classic. What did he do? Was that in the 90s or was that in the early aughts that he unleashed that one? I can't remember if it was WWE or WCW.
No, that was WWE on, I think it might have even been like 2010 or 2011.
No shit.
I think it was like one of the handful of times that he had a match with like the Undertaker in it.
Go back to Toronto. I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
Okay. Yeah, that's I know a classic. It's a classic internet meme-ism-ish. Pre-meme, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the most famous person from your town, isn't he?
I know Neil Young partially grew up here, and he's kind of credited as a famous Winnipegger. Who else? I mean, the band The Guess Who with that American Woman song was pretty famous. But yeah, probably Jericho's right up there.
And now he's gone from being the Winnipeg Wonder to being the terror of Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa trash, like all those other wrestlers.
So yeah, your all's most recent album, Loved, was released back in 2018, but you recently released instrumental version of it.
Yeah, we that was kind of a weird one. We made the thing back in 2018 just for the sake of it. We've always owned the rights to all of our masters, and as a result, like the options there to license stuff to things like commercials, films, whatever. Not that our music is that kind of music that most any people would even want, but we kind of always thought it was worth at least having the asset there. And this was the first time we had the thought before making the record. So we mixed like a fully separate version and mastered it. And we've just been sitting on it for like 3 years. Our bassist Scott actually forgot we even made it. And I also forgot to tell him I was releasing it. Oops.
Yeah, no, have y'all been working on new music during all of this?
Yeah, that's actually been the only good thing of all this. I literally have my phone propped up on top of a warm audio limiting amplifier and a Pro MPA2 mic preamp next to my monitor speakers here and my whole universal audio interface. So I started learning how to do the thing, and it's allowed me to kind of create demos in a way that I've never really been able to do this. I dabbled my toes into working on demoing on a computer probably nearing 15 years ago, and it was still kind of prohibitively difficult to get into, and the computing power required wasn't something that your average computer could handle. I remember trying to set it up back then, and the audio engineer that we'd worked with on the couple albums prior was telling me you have to set up like this whole new subdivision in your computer, and you can't have antivirus, you can't have it online, it's all these crazy things you would need to do to your computer just to be able to record audio and run Pro Tools. And now, like, they've simplified all that stuff to the point where even a stupid laptop that like your average office worker works on can handle that stuff. So I downloaded Reaper, learned a few things, and I've just kind of been going, like, learning as I go. And it's been really cool. Like, we're starting to write again just before the pandemic hit, and probably had like 4 or 5 songs. And after the pandemic kind of shut everything down, I I kind of lost my mind and threw all those songs out and started from scratch. And now we have like, we're nearing 73 minutes worth of music. So it's more than any one record that anyone would ever want to hear from us. So we're probably gonna make 2. We'll see. I'm thinking we can make 2.
Yeah, I mean, just you mentioning that, for context, you know, like both Loved and Blessed are on regular repeat whenever I work out, and that usually takes me, you know, between 90 to 120 minutes, and I get through both of those albums like back to back.
Yeah. I think our regular albums are generally, I mean, Entrenched was longer and it made it a double LP, and we don't like making double LPs much because I don't know. I don't feel like we're a double LP band. People don't want to spend like $30 on our records, but a single LP is fine, right? And even then, like all my favorite albums, like the real classics, are like around 30, 33 anyway. Like any Jesus Lizard record's like a 32-minute, or Willpower by Today's the Days just over 30. Like when something is kind of revving on a certain level of curiosity, you don't really want to hear that for 60 minutes straight. So we've always approached at least most of our records with that in the back of our minds. And also, I'd rather have people want to listen to it twice than go like, God, is this over yet? Ugh.
Yeah, no, I get that because I've had that happen with a few albums before. I don't want to name any names, but yeah, there's a few bands that they hit that, you know, 60-minute, you know, track 12 mark, and there's still 3 tracks left to go, and I'm just like, I love the music, but there's only a certain amount of that level of aggression and ferocity that you really need, you know, for like a prolonged period, I think.
Yeah, it's too much, too long, too many blast beats. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So what was it like in Canada during all this? Because I feel like just from media coverage and whatnot, everything kind of sounded like Canada was a little bit more generous with the support that it gave its citizens.
Yeah, it definitely was, and we will be paying for that for the rest of our lives. Yeah, we've been in a strange scenario because I think when it's all said and done, we'll have been one of the countries that was punished with probably some of the worst lockdowns of the entire pandemic. And part of that is due to the fact that we have universal health care. And the other part of it is due to the fact that I think I saw some statistics in a report that on average, Canadians consume, I think it's 7/8 American media over Canadian. So after the first original kind of shutdown, when everyone was kind of just terrified back in March when this thing just started, America definitely influenced how stupid Canadians could get. Only we don't have a system like America that it really can work that way. Like when we're dealing with universal health care, and in our province especially, like we have a conservative provincial government right now, and they've kind of been stripping our healthcare system. So we don't have very many emergency rooms. We definitely have less ICU beds than we used to. And like in Manitoba, a year ago around now, we had literally 0 COVID cases in the summer. And people started to think, well, it's not a problem. Who cares? And then by the fall, we were the worst spot in Canada and our ICUs were completely overrun. And you'd think we'd learn from that, but it happened again in May. And literally, we actually made international news because we were the North American hotspot. And it's like from a province that at one point almost had none, it's just embarrassing. And for me, like, we had a record planned. We should have originally been in the studio right now, but I had to cancel that because we couldn't bring our engineer up into Canada. And I'm hoping we can do it in September. We pivoted and moved it to September 30th to start again. And I'm hopeful it'll happen. But all the rumblings about this Delta Plus variant have me a little worried, but I think our vaccination rates are trending in a really good direction. The biggest concern is Americans, just not enough of them are getting vaccinated.
Yeah, no, like it's oddly, I don't know if funny is the right word, but you know, a year ago everyone was kind of crossing their fingers for a vaccine, and then the vaccines finally came out earlier this year, and everyone, or I guess not everyone, but the huge percentage of people just decided that they either didn't care or that they were going to buy into, you know, whatever conspiracy theory their aunt posted on Facebook.
Yeah, that's been the most frustrating and disappointing part of it all. I mean, it is what it is, but the internet obviously helped in the early stages of, and it has overall like prevented an awful lot of deaths, but it's also caused every problem that has arisen through this pandemic. And it's simply because like the most ignorant in our society are able to spread messages just as fast as the most brilliant, and they all rally around it. So yeah, I feel like I haven't been exposed to as much regular people bullshit as I have since high school. And it's bummed me out at a fundamental level. Because I've been kind of isolated in a bit of a artistic bubble probably since I was 18 when I started this band, and most of my social networks have been circulating and revolving around being in a band. And you tend to make friends and keep people in that circle that are somewhat like-minded. And it just so happens that a lot of people who follow this kind of music, especially at the level that I think a lot of us are used to, and at our age, like it's the weirdo lifers that stick around. And generally speaking, I've noticed a trend in the way everyone thinks. And that's really the thing. They think.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask how you've also kind of kept busy during all of this too, along with the music, because I know that from what I remember, you're like a big Muay Thai guy too, but you know,
Yeah.
gyms were probably closed.
Oh, they most certainly have been, and that's been one of the worst parts of this pandemic for me. I've never been good at working out on my own and staying motivated, and Muay Thai was kind of a blessing when I got into it. And the lockdowns really disrupted my life in a very bad way by taking that away from me. I feel very lucky that our gyms just opened up like almost, it was a week ago this last Saturday. So I'm finally able to do the thing again. And that's after a 2-month shutdown. And I think we were open for maybe a month and a half, or maybe a couple months. But we had a 4-month lockdown before that. I think it was 4. Anyway, it's that's been probably the hardest of all this for me, because Muay Thai is massive in me managing and regulating my mental health. And depression has been a bitch through this. Music has helped, but it's not enough. And I struggle with fucking up my routines to a degree like that. And I'm bad at pivoting. So it sucked. How's the workouts been on your end?
For me, it was like about a year ago here, the gyms reopened, but there were initially limits on the number of people that could go in, and there were strict mask policies and all of that, which was good. But you know, there's always the idiots who are trying to skirt around them, or like keep their mask like around their chin like a diaper or whatever on their face. But before that, like as soon as this happened, I've got like the same kind of thing where working out's a big part of me, like regulating my mental health too. And so as soon as this happened, like as soon as I knew that we were going to get locked down, I had like gotten in and gotten a few things off of the internet before all of that shit was like sold out too. So I got like a couple of 80-pound dumbbells and like a bench and like some heavy chains, some parallel bars, and a kettlebell,
Yeah,
and
cool.
was basically just like maintaining to the extent that I could with that. Um, which luckily I was in a position where I was able to do that. So uh, it would have. I can imagine that it would have been. I guess maybe a little bit I don't know if torturous is too extreme of a word to throw in there, but it would have been really annoying just from like a mental health regulation standpoint and a standpoint of having to see like all of the work that I've done over the last several years just kind of atrophy, you know?
Yeah, that's been a heartbreaking part for me too, because like since we stopped touring full time, which would have been like 2016, I've kind of filled the void with basically just becoming a gym rat, and I've got like exponentially better at my craft there, and it's just been paused for like a year and a half, because I mean you can practice fundamentals at home pretty easily, but like if you're not using that in drilling it with partners and doing pad work with partners and sparring, it's that the pushing it to that next level, the sparring work that I get more out of, um and like the areas that I want to improve in, it's really, you can't replicate that without actually actively fighting someone, and I can only beat up on my girlfriend so much. We did some pad work, but like yeah, even just with her being off, she her body she's a tattoo artist, and she kind of was shut down every time our gym was shut down, so she ended up, I think it was like almost 10 months out of the last year and a half that they forced her to shut down. And like when your income is just gone, that has a big impact on not only your mental health, but like your physical health starts to take a toll just due to the stress. And you don't exactly want your stupid boyfriend kicking you in the body when you're feeling that way. Ugh.
Yeah, no, the one thing that I kind of noticed too during all of this is that for as much as whenever I'm at the gym, like waiting on equipment or whatever, and I'm getting annoyed by that at times, I find that that is actually more of a motivation for me to get through my workout quicker when I'm in a gym, because I don't want to hold up equipment for people either. Whereas
Yeah.
when I was trying to work out at home, it would take me longer to get through a shorter routine because there were more distractions around, and because I didn't have that sort of impulse in the back of my mind that other people needed to use the stuff too.
Yeah, and you kind of, as much as you might not necessarily love everyone at the gym, there is a bizarre social aspect of it. And I mean, the community, the fight community for me had become more and more important over the last bunch of years. And that's been kind of stressful for me too, because fight communities inherently are drawn to conspiracy theory type stuff. And through the pandemic, it has been way worse than it's ever been. And I can't tolerate that shit. And I worry about a lot of those relationships that I had and whether or not they'll be able to recover. Yeah, it's just been tough.
Yeah. I wonder what the reasoning for that kind of deeper draw to conspiracy theory shit is in the fight community. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like, getting it hit in the head a certain number of times or
Definitely got to have a bit of an impact. And I mean, there's a certain type of person that gets drawn into that stuff too. The funny thing about all this is and that's really why the pandemic itself has been so shrouded in conspiracy theories, is because a lot of people feel like there's got to be something more going on. Like it's got to be more complicated than this. It's the powers that be are trying to take over and control you. It's like, no, it's just you people are all spreading a communicable disease. and we're trying to keep people from just straight up killing each other. I wish it was more complicated than how fucking stupid all this has been. And that's like with our province up here in the middle of Canada, like that's been the most frustrating part. Like, it's not like our stupid ass provincial government is trying to hoodwink anyone. It's just incompetence. That was the only problem. But fuck, whatever. The funny thing is I find myself praising them now because the way they've been handling the vaccine rollout has been really, really good and really professional, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I joke about the blows to the head or whatever, but I think a big part of the conspiracy thing overall has kind of been like, now that we all have social media and everyone's just constantly sharing whatever information with people whenever, regardless of the value of it, I think there's more of like a social cachet given to being the person who knows the things, So like now everyone wants to be that person that knows the thing that no one else is in on yet. And it just leads to people believing all sorts of crazy stuff.
In a lot of ways, people just share stuff for the entertainment of it or create a conversation when a lot of the time the very act of sharing it, people take that as an authority, which is just fucking nonsense. Anyway, we should not talk about this anymore because it's going to make me want to burn the world down.
Yeah, so back to the fighting thing. You actually went to Thailand at one point, right?
Yeah, I went in 2018. It was actually, we recorded Loved and then I ditched town. We mixed it and we mastered it while I was in Thailand and Vietnam. I went down to the Sitman Chai camp just outside of Bangkok and trained there for would have been about 3-4 weeks. I was actually planning to go back this year originally because I turned 40 in October and I wanted to kind of, my grand scheme was that we were going to put out a record probably like late summer 2021, tour the US and Canada, take the rest of the year off. I'd go to Thailand for like a month. And then in the spring of 2022, I want us to tour Europe on the record. And obviously all that's just been blown to shit. I mean, there's the potential that I could still go to Thailand in the fall, but I think that's kind of stupid right now, particularly with my income having taken a hit for the last year and a half. I need a little bit more runway to think about this thing.
Yeah. What was it like training in Thailand? Because I've heard that it's the Muay Thai scene there can be pretty brutal.
I mean, the training itself is just very exhausting. There's nothing particularly brutal about the training because they don't, in Thailand, the sparring is completely different than they treat it in like the US and more Western countries where sparring is kind of, they definitely do a harder style. In Thailand, it's way more playful. So it's almost more just lightly practicing things. And it's the culture over there too is they fight frequently. So they don't need to take knocks at the gym, but they do beat the shit out of pad work and clinch work and running, which I'm not used to. My old knees can't take that. But the coolest part for me was getting to work with the professional pad holders where they like literally correct your technique as you're going and they really just drill the technique into you. And I think I improved a lot and it fundamentally changed my mentality in the way I approached a lot of the technique going forward, which I think was really cool. And I'll like, obviously it's one of the most valuable things to someone studying and being a student of martial arts. So part of my plan for when I wanted to go back is I wanted to try and kind of have a certain amount of money that I was willing to spend on booking private lessons with a bunch of the like legends of Muay Thai from the golden era, because a lot of them you can like literally just pay for private lessons. It's as simple as that, and they're surprisingly reasonably priced too, because I mean Thailand's currency isn't exactly booming. So you can like train with, there's a real, the video game Street Fighter with the character Sagat. That's based on a real dude who fought in the 80s. And I guess the programmers at Capcom saw him fight someone in Japan, and they based this character off of him. And like, he still trains people, and he's in his 60s and he's still a monster. I'd love to just meet that dude.
Yeah. The most like fight training that I've ever done was some very basic level boxing. But right before the pandemic happened, like I guess maybe around the beginning of 2020, late 2019, I think maybe I had talked to you about it too on Facebook chat or something.
Mhm.
I was thinking about training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then like right at the beginning of 2020, I was in the gym one day and I like pivoted on my knee weird and somehow sprained my ACL and my PCL. I had to get like an MRI and had a knee brace on for like 4 or 5 months. Like every now and then I'll still kind of like re-aggravate something in there because I've also got some kind of like runner's knee kind of thing or something where there's like weird cartilage bumps under my knee now from just like wearing it down. So I'm trying to like figure out now at what point it would be safe for me to actually attempt to train in anything.
Yeah, that's tricky. I mean, I had to stop doing jujitsu. I was doing it for a few years, and it's actually the beginning of 2013 when we basically went out for like 10 months straight. I sprained my left thumb rolling, and it's just the simple act of like you're gripping someone and they roll over your hand and just crunched it. But like, we went on a 6.5 week tour of the US and Canada with Today is the Day, Black Tusk, and Fight Amp. And I know Keel Hall did a week in there, and Ringworm did a week in there. But that whole tour, I was wearing a wrist and thumb brace in between playing. And when we'd play, like I'd like prop my thumb up on the back of the neck, and when I play certain chords, I'd get these crazy pains that went all the way up my arm, up my neck, and it's just because my thumb was fucked up from jiu-jitsu. I tried getting back into it the next year, and I think it's just the years of like head banging have accumulated, and I in some of the warm-ups we were doing like somersaults and stuff like that, I'd get dizzy and then couldn't get back. Like my inner ear was just kind of fucked up, and I'd stay fucked up for the night, which was kind of concerning. So I figured I'm just not gonna do that. Stick to striking. I won't do hard sparring. I don't really want to scramble my brain that way, although sometimes things happen. But yeah, a lot of that, like the wear and tear is pretty extreme. I've found that I can get away with less just focusing on Muay Thai. So that's what I do.
Yeah. I've considered that too, but I don't know how well my knee would actually hold up with that. So I think at some point when things calm down a little bit more than they are now too, I'm just gonna have to like ask a doctor about it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, when you're getting into ACL tears and shit like that, though, that's where it's tricky. Rehab can help strengthen certain aspects of it, but when you're dealing with things like grappling, it's a lot of the very bizarre movements that are the problem. With stuff like Muay Thai, it's a little bit more standard. If you're getting in, again, it's the hard sparring stuff that ends up being the variable, like, because then it's other people that are hurting you. But if you're just doing like pad work and bag work and stuff like that, the odds of you hurting yourself if you're using proper technique are quite a bit lower. So I obviously promote Muay Thai. I think that's the shit.
Yeah. I mean, the other crazy thing when I got the MRI on my knee was that the doctor was like, it looks like you've torn your MCL before and it just healed on its own and you never knew it. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember doing that. So
Ouch.
Yeah. Like it's crazy that you can do that and it's you don't even realize that you did it, you know?
Yeah. I don't even want to know what I've damaged permanently. That I'm sure there's stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's you mentioned the headbanging thing, and you know, there's the stories every now and then about dudes that have nerve damage in their necks from it from just like years.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there's something wrong there. Especially when you come from like the Henry Rollins school of headbanging, where like if you're not going from up here to down to your knees, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So back to the new album that you guys are working on. What does that sound like compared to Loved or Blessed?
That'll be interesting to see how people react. In terms of the actual sonics, there's some very heavy stuff, a little bit of quasi-industrial influence in some of it. And then we've also taken we've always had a bit of melody in the weaving albums together. With some of these sadder tones, we've really leaned into some of that. We kind of have like, it's almost like 3 different styles that we're playing with on this, where some of it's just super nihilistic and noisy, and with like, I have behind me, there's a bunch of new tools. We've been messing around with Moog synths and drum machines, and so we've been fucking around with some different sonic palettes than we ever have before with some of the material, and then some of it is just I think kind of brutally sad, and it's all pretty much been written within the pandemic, and it's me trying to convey the feelings going on in my head, at least lyrically. Scott's written some of the lyrics, but a lot of it I've really leaned heavily into my own mental illness on this one, which I hope doesn't come across as a one-trick pony, but I think there will be a level of relatability for a lot of people, just in how they felt during this stupid year and a half. Yeah, it's still very much an aggressive band. It's not like we're changing anything like substantially, but I think it's different enough that people aren't going to be bored. Because I mean, the whole purpose of this is for me not to get bored.
Yeah. You know, I to this day, every time that I listen to Loved, just the first track, Doesn't Feel Pain Like You Should, it just starts the whole thing off this crazy like high point of frenetic aggression, and then you get into The Illusion of Dignity, and that has one of the most pummeling drum beats on it that I can think of in recent memory. It's
with that trash can. Well, it's not a trash can. I know people have said it sounds like a door slamming, the snare drum.
Yeah, and the lyrics on all of your all's albums that I've listened to are fantastic. Like those I think pump me up as much as the music itself, because there's one that I think of all the time well, I mean, I mentioned that I listen to the albums a lot when I'm working out, and like I get to the middle of Loved, and on like Very Small Men, there's this line, it's just a beak and 600 teeth, this is the anarchy of beasts, and I fucking love that.
What was the reference for its a beak and 600 teeth? Oh fuck, it might have been, I took a couple references that were in some paleontology literature. That's where the song named Feathers and Lips came from, because you know how most of the paleontology art that represents dinosaurs, they always show them with like just these exposed teeth, and the reality of it, like there are so few even just reptiles that are like that like, why would you expect dinosaurs were like that? It's very likely that a huge portion of them had feathers and lips. I thought that conceptually was just really funny. but I think, yeah, the a beak and 600 teeth was from similar literature, and it was referencing something, but I can't remember what. Maybe a pterosaur of some kind, but yeah, that's been something I've spiraled, I don't want to say uncontrollably on, but through the pandemic, I've been following a lot more paleontology based stuff, just to try and break up the monotony of all the just miserable news. Because on things like Reddit, you can follow a lot of cool shit, and even on Instagram, like the number of cool fringe artists that are just drawing dead things. And there's PBS has a lot of programming on YouTube that like you can just, I know a lot of it's funded just through Patreon. But one of my favorite shows that I got into pretty hard was Eons, which is it's just a paleontology based mini docu series. Like they do like 10-minute episodes, but it's really, really cool. And they speak really fast, but it's got enough technical meat that it's super interesting, but it's not so deep that it's boring. So anyway, I've kind of completely taken talking about the actual lyrics and spiraled off into something else.
I go down rabbit holes on that stuff all the time too. So
yeah, the new stuff's just going to be straight misery. We were commenting early on in the writing process that the last couple records had been miserable sounding to other people, but a lot of it has been very, very funny to us. Success was very much a lot of inside jokes. Loved was inside jokes that people found less funny, but we still found funny. And I know Scott referenced that the new stuff now we're not even laughing. So
yeah. I actually just realized that I kept calling Success Blessed. So
okay, that was the original working title of that record anyway. And that opening track, I mean, we even did stickers that just said Blessed on it. So with the album cover.
So I have too much insider knowledge. That's the problem here.
Yeah. And you're not the first and you're not the last that'll make that mistake. It's just such a charismatic song, man.
The second track on that album, These Tight Jeans, the first several times that I heard it, I misheard the one line in the chorus and thought that it was saying this surgery was not well planned instead of this certainly was not well planned.
I think that is a concept too.
It's a problem either way.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't even know. I don't think I could play any of those songs anymore. I haven't played any of our back catalog the last show we played was October 2019. So that was the last time I played any of our old songs. Oh boy.
Yeah, because I saw y'all in October 2018, like right after Loved came out. I can't remember if you played anything off of any of the albums before Loved.
Yeah, I think that tour we were playing, I can't remember if we had anything off Venerable, but we at least played stuff off Entrench, Success, Loved. I think we played one track off of Venerable too. We try to mix it up at least a little, so it's because I know what it's like. I've seen plenty of bands where I only like two of their records, and you acknowledge they're still a good live band, but the new stuff just doesn't really resonate with you. And then when you go and it's mostly new stuff, it's just like, okay, well, I don't really care about those songs, but it was still a good show. But we try to kind of mix in at least some of the older stuff, acknowledging that like most people don't give a shit about anything pre-Venerable anyway. So that's usually where we draw the line, although we sometimes play even older material, but yeah, really, for all intents and purposes, we got on most people's radar when we started touring the US all the time, and that was like 2010 on. So
yeah, and I remember there's a conversation that you and I had that night too, because there were some younger kids that played that show, and I think we were joking around about how like most people that age now don't seem like they're like that angry, or they're not like playing that kind of music, you know what I mean?
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of the pandemic, because I think a lot of people were very bored, and I'd be curious to see if there is potentially a new generation of kids that maybe picked up an instrument out of this year boredom, but maybe not. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to be angry.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of quasi joked about that as the pandemic was going on, that like you can only hope that there's a massive number of teenagers right now that are going to put out some relatively groundbreaking music over the next 5 years, just as a result of being cooped up. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe they will prove me wrong, but one can hope, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. I feel like sometimes with heavy music too, there's and I think about this every now and then, that like every time the kids come along and like try to do something different with it, the older generation just kind of like shits on it, because heavy music is just so entrenched in just sort of this traditional idea of what these heavy genres are, you know?
Mm-hmm. And yet, I mean, as long as it's done tastefully, there are new ideas that constantly seep their way into the kind of canon of heavy music. And it'll be interesting to see what the next thing is. As is with this entire journey, as it always has been. It's interesting to see what's next and how it gets accepted or denied. I won't pretend that we've ever been at like the forefront of any of that. All the bands I've always liked, not a lot of people have liked. So it shows in what I play, but we're thankful for the following we have, and that we've been able to do the cool things that we've been able to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there's a little bit of an industrial influence on some of the new material. Do you think that the way that you had to go about writing the songs for the new album lended itself to that kind of seeping in too?
It certainly helped. I had the curiosity before this all happened, and that just shows in the fact that I bought one of the Moog synthesizers before there was even knowledge of an impending pandemic. But certainly being able to play around with a lot of that stuff was something that I was afforded due to the sheer fact that like you couldn't hang out with people, you couldn't even have a proper band practice. So I learned how to use the tools, and I also kind of got mildly obsessed with 9 Inch Nails for a large chunk of time during the pandemic, which also helped.
You know, I've always loved the additional atmosphere that that genre can add to any other sort of heavy genre whenever it's kind of mixed together, because it's so mechanical, it just sounds cold overall, you know?
Yeah, as long as it's done tastefully, and I mean it's been done ways a lot in the past. I just hope that what we do with it is viewed well. I mean, I don't ultimately give a shit as long as I think it sounds cool, and I think the way we're doing things should be cool with other people. Whatever, my synths sound heavy as shit, so either way I'm gonna hurt people with them.
Yeah, and you guys just joined TikTok, right?
Literally. Yeah, why was I even questioning that? I saw some post about it, and I thought like, fuck, this is gonna be a thing we're gonna have to care about in the next couple of years, isn't it? Like begrudgingly, I've said like I don't really have any interest in the medium, but I do acknowledge that, like, I mean, even with Instagram, because Instagram's been copying what Snapchat and what TikTok's has been doing, and I know Instagram is moving. There's that official statement that they're moving away from picture-based things, and they want to be more of a video app, which is just them trying to not get their ass kicked by TikTok. So fuck it, I guess we might as well lean into it and learn how to use it now before we actually put out a record. And I mean, it will push us to continue interacting with the movement of where the music industry is headed. So we'll do it as tastefully as we can and treat it in an entertaining way. I think it's not like we're gonna pander to fucking tweens and do lip syncing videos or any of that shit. But I think we can do some fun stuff with it. I mean, we did that shit on Instagram like what, 7 years ago, even with when we tour with Garrett Jameson as a comedian. We do mini jokes with him on Instagram, and I think we can do a lot of dumb shit that people should at least find entertaining-ish, unless they hate our guts, and then whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of avoided TikTok this whole time too, but I was just thinking earlier today that I should probably figure out what it's all about so that I understand how to use it if I ever need to. It's one of those things where it's like, I feel like for every 2 or 3 people that do interesting things with all these different platforms, there's like a dozen more who just kind of like sadly seem to be under this delusion that their life is a reality show. And so that kind of makes me not want to dive too deep into it.
Yeah, big. And I've noticed that already in the half day I've been on it, where like this shit just gets thrown into your feed no matter what. You have no choice in the matter. And you click on these things like, why do these people have 250,000 followers? Who the fuck is this? It's some TikTok entertainer. Like, okay, whatever. I mean, this isn't for me, so maybe try not to get hopelessly addicted to it like I am other stupid social media apps. But at least with the crossover that you can apply this to Instagram with, it won't be a wasted effort on our part, whether or not we get a lot of followers on it or not. Not that I have delusions that we would, but at least all the content I can cross-pollinate Instagram with, which, I mean, we have not a ton of followers, but we have enough that it's not a waste of my time. Yeah. Like Twitter's a waste of time. We got banned from that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what happened to your all's Twitter account, because I was looking for that for some reason not too long ago. I think I like tweeted something about like one of your all's albums, and I was like, oh, I guess they don't have a Twitter anymore.
Yeah, that was a funny, not funny story. When because we started Twitter, I think in 2000, maybe it's 2009, maybe. I don't remember when Twitter actually became a thing. I know it was it got more of a mass shift after Facebook was already a thing. Probably 2009. Anyway, when you first were able to create Twitter accounts, you couldn't create business accounts, so we had to create it as a person. And I think I gave it my own birth date at the time. And I guess it would have been 2 years ago now, in 2019, I decided, well, I'm going to change the birth date of the band, which is a business, to the actual birth date of the band, because at the time we were turning 20 as a band. So I thought, like, why not, right? So I changed the birth date, and Twitter paused our account saying, I guess they have some statutes in it where they don't want people under 12 on it, I think. And there's something in their user policies with the laws in Europe that prevents that. But as a result of me changing it to having the band's birthday in 1999, it said, when you started this account, you were under the required age that we have in our policies, so we're suspending your account and you can dispute this here. So I disputed it and got nowhere. They didn't respond to anything. I provided ample proof that, like, this is a 20-year-old band, not a 10-year-old kid. And even then, like, if we were 10 when we started, why would it matter? Because we're 20 now. But then they just deleted it. They never addressed it. They deleted the account, and I went like, fuck it, I don't care. I hated Twitter anyway. It was all the negativity that is and was on Facebook, only with none of the perks for me. So I don't miss it. We have a like shell account just to sometimes check in on certain things that we need to, if you need to have a Twitter account to view things. But other than that, it's good riddance. All the things I used to be following was basically just fight news and comedians. And because of the Trump presidency, all the comedians became hyper political. And that was boring, because that's not why I followed them. I followed them for jokes, not to see them slowly swirl with their mental health degrading to the point of it kind of being sad to watch. Just not a healthy scene. So why be a part of it?
Yeah, it's out of all the social platforms, Twitter seems to be the one where it's got the most people just kind of yelling aimlessly into the void.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of sadness and a lot of anger, and I just don't really see any point to partaking, because I don't need to attract attention that way. At least with Facebook, I can like shoot the shit with people in bands or people that appreciate good music, or gear nerds, or wrestling fans, or some MMA fans. But generally, I don't talk a lot about MMA on there anymore, because no one gives a shit that follows me.
Yeah, no, speaking about wrestling, have you watched much of it in the past year? How do you feel about, without the crowds?
I really haven't. I'm a Reddit follower at best now. I think actually the funny thing about the pandemic, the only thing I've been enjoying on Facebook is the number of like old school wrestling pages that are posting like full segments of the old shows just on Facebook. That's been the most fun for me. And I acknowledge it's 100% just member berries. It's me getting that little warm fuzzy from remembering a time where I was like 5 years old and watching wrestling and nothing mattered in the world. But I've got a kick out of that shit. And the A&E documentaries they did with WWE were all awesome. Dark Side of the Ring I enjoy. Like all the old shit is just way more fun for me.
Yeah, no, I think the ratings on all of that shit does way better than the actual weekly new wrestling shows do too.
Yeah, which I mean, it's tough because like the crowd adds a lot to that. I couldn't imagine needing to do anyone that was like really driven to do a whole bunch of live stream concerts. Like it's not the same. That's in part why we never did anything like that. I just don't care.
Yeah,
it's a completely different thing. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the two live stream concerts that I actually checked out were the Behemoth one and the Guar one, and those were both more like theatrical presentations than they were an actual concert. Like the ones that really kind of I wanted to check those out because they were presented in a way that was more than just the band performing to no one. Like but you also had to have like the resources to be able to kind of pull off something that was theatrical and more of a spectacle to kind of merit selling that virtual ticket to.
Yeah, and I mean, we could probably put something together at some point that would make sense for that, but like you'd have to dedicate a lot of time. You're almost like not quite writing a movie, but at the same time, like you're trying to, you'd almost want to incorporate like a performance art aspect to it to at least make it something different rather than just, well, this is not a concert. And I would never want to do that. Even just the focusing on the way some artists have chosen to do live streams. there's an element of questioning the entire meaning of life behind it, seeing how inherently corny something like that comes across when you're not doing it in a dark room full of people, because it ends up just being posturing to a camera. And I've never really connected with the posturing side regardless. So it starts to make me hate the art form itself, which I don't think is a healthy headspace to get into.
Yeah, it's like seeing Dimmu Borgir in like open daylight and an afternoon slot on the Ozfest.
Yeah.
It just kind of takes away the presentation.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like conversely, there's the obviously like legendary Neurosis Locust Star video from the middle of the day at Ozfest. And those motherfuckers were playing like there was no crowd. And that's what made that special.
Yeah.
They were just monsters doing the thing. And a lot of the live stream stuff that I've at least seen footage from wasn't that. It wasn't monsters doing the thing. It was people posturing. And all the monsters that would do the thing, I think, chose to not attempt the medium. So
no, it's kind of like on the comedy side of things. There were the Zoom comedy shows, but then there were a lot of the big name comedians chose not to do that because that's one of those other mediums where it's hard to do that without crowd feedback.
Yeah, and that's not what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
The one most I mean, whether or not you like the comedy, I'd never really delved into his stuff before, but Bo Burnham had that special that came out, like maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit more. But he's kind of a musical comedian, and he did that special that he directed, edited, filmed everything, blah, blah, blah. He did like literally everything, but it's actually a really good piece of showing the mindset of a performance artist during COVID and having that kind of all taken away from you and having this idea to try and do this thing, but like with it just seeming to never end, you kind of take for granted the mental toll it takes. And I thought as a work of art, whether you like the comedy or not, I thought it was a really, really well done piece of art, which is entertaining when you're talking about a stand-up special on Netflix.
Yeah, I need to check that out. I've heard a few other people talk about it, and it's something that's on my list, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's worth if you take my 2 cents on the subject. Yeah, it was cool, and I'm iffy on musical comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just in general, it's been really interesting just seeing how people have adapted and experimented with new things as a result of having the way they usually did things disrupted.
Mm-hmm. You either adapt and perish, or just get paralyzed. And there are plenty of people who are just paralyzed by it too. Don't fault them, but I tried to do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we have probably 2 records to record.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked to hear that, because I came into this expecting to hear that you all just had like the 1 record that you were working on, but hearing that you've got like 2 albums worth of stuff makes me even more excited.
Yeah, I think the big difference was just the fact that I started doing this pre-production stuff on a computer. I analyzed all the material, and I've written a record's worth with my bassist Scott, and then basically a record's worth that I wrote all the music on my own. So that's really the big difference there, is just with the excess time and the tools, I've put together a lot of songs on my own, which I haven't really done in quite some time. And I think it all works together really well. So it'll be, I'm just excited to record it and have it over with.
Yeah.
That was another thing that we've been struggling with because of the lockdowns and not being able to bring, like, our producer Andrew Schneider lives in New York, and like presently we still can't bring him into Canada, regardless of whether we're vaccinated and he's vaccinated. There are still travel restrictions in place where we can't bring an American up to work, unless he's an essential worker, and obviously what he does is not deemed essential. But that's been one of my biggest concerns with all this. Like, if we have to keep pushing it back, like, at what point does all this material feel irrelevant to me? Like, as a hoity-toity artist, like, I can't sit on it this long, particularly when it's very much of the period that it's been created. I don't want to have this when we're all enjoying like the new roaring 20s in 2023, 24, and we're just putting out this miserable fucking record that's dwelling on the horrible times from before. Like, what's the fucking point? I want to get this out there. I want to make it sound relevant. Anyway.
No, you can't put it out in the new roaring 20s when you should be making the KENmode synth pop album.
Yeah, exactly. We all want to feel good all the time.
With the synth stuff that's going to be on the album, how will that work, pulling that off in a live environment?
To be continued. We are intending to bring on a fourth member, Catherine Kerr, who played saxophone on the last record. We have a fair amount of saxophone on the new material, and we're going to get her to play piano, synth, and various other noise and samples in our attempts to replicate this new stuff live. So we've only actually rehearsed once as a 4-piece. We're going to have to whip ourselves into shape very soon, so if we intend to record all this in September. But yeah, now with all the vaccinations, we're actually able to bring, because Scott lives like 9 hours away from us in Saskatoon, in another province. So we literally haven't been able to bring him back. We had him here in March, which was the first time since October. So we've only really played as even a 3-piece once in like the last 10 months. So he's scheduled to come here next week. Yeah, I have a big project due on the 15th, and then he's showing up that night. So get to do the thing again.
Nice. Yeah, I was just joking earlier with someone that there's seemingly no corner of pop culture that sexy saxophone sounds haven't touched.
True. Although we're definitely not using it in a very sexy way. It's mostly being used as a weapon now. We flirted with some melodies on the last one, and yeah, there's actually, maybe that's a lie. I got one song where there's kind of it's kind of a minor melody, I guess. Yeah, but mostly being used as a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, some people might still find that sexy too. There's all types.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I won't fault people for what they're into, as long as it's not hurting people, right?
As long as it sounds tastefully.
Yeah. Or distastefully. I don't give a shit. Just is anything we do actually tasteful?
I mean, that's a philosophical question.
Yeah.
You're getting into the existentialism of art.
It's true.
Is tasteful at all?
That might be a really good place to leave this.
Yeah, I've had you for a little bit over an hour now, so
I should probably go have a shower. I haven't showered since getting back from the gym.
Yeah, no, it was great catching up with you. I think the last time that we had like a direct conversation was that show in 2018. When I brought you guys some beer and banana bread for the road. So
right. We ate that immediately. Can't remember which beer it was though. I remembered you brought us a beer, but I can't remember for the life of me which one it was.
Yeah, it was from Adroit Theory, and I can't remember if I brought you 2 different bottles of it or just the one, because they had the bigger bottles at the time, and I can't remember if I
Yeah.
brought you 2 of them or just the one.
I should look up because I don't think I have any of them left, and I probably would have checked into that on Untapped. So I'll have to see what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, great catching up with you, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. We'll have to do it again sometime when we have a record to promote, which hopefully is soon.
Rock you,